Yeah, for the record, usually in Gnostic classes, we would invite people later on to the instructor's personal home where we can talk more deeply and comfortably, but I can see everyone is very genuinely interested, very friendly and respectful, so yeah, we continue here, and we have more time for questions off camera too, as well, time to relax afterwards, so yeah. So this is the first class, which is really going into the foundation or the substance of Gnosis, practically speaking, which is the psychological work. So, Gnostic, esoteric psychology, you could call the esoteric essentially the same word as Gnostic. Esoteric meaning hidden knowledge, or knowledge that is not easily understood in general, or not easily understood by people in general, especially the general public. There's a reason for that. There's a reason why today in humanity most people are not understanding these inner mysteries, these secret teachings. And that relates to specific ages that we're in, the current times that we're in, and it's necessary too that humanity is the way it is right now. But that's a different topic for later on. But yes, esoteric knowledge, and this is esoteric psychology and also sexology, meaning we will also be looking into the sexual teachings too, because as we saw before, we have the physical, intellectual, we have the physical brain of the physical body, we have the intellectual brain, and we have emotional brain, and we also have a sexual brain, right? It's a totally different brain that in society and religion and a lot of spirituality too, we're not taught to think about or understand. It's just this general sense of, our sexuality. So the word psychology, we hear that a lot, but when we look at the actual meaning of psychology, psyche means soul originally. This word comes from the word soul. And ology is logos. It comes from the word logos. So logos relates to the word of God. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, right, in the beginning of the Bible. So psyche, soul, and God, right? This is a very significant word. Sometimes people are curious as to why Gnosis is so psychological. Actually, in this course, we all learn to become our own psychologist. A very profound psychologist too, compared to if you were to meet a normal psychologist who has learned psychology in a university. You can learn a lot, but here you can learn a lot more intimately related to our own being. So psychology means the relationship of the soul with God, and to know that everyone has a relationship with God, whether you believe in God, whether you don't. God meaning the logos, meaning what is your particular relationship with your word, meaning your creative energy. What is your relationship with your own creative word? Right? The word relating to how do you create your own life? Right? We're all creating our own life. We just don't know. We're creating ourselves with our thoughts, with our emotions, right? And also sexually, we're creating our life. And this Sexual energy is related to the logos, the word. So esoteric psychology is this. It's a very superior. It's a higher level of knowledge, of psychological knowledge. And we enter into this. We could call this an initiation into the internal. At first, we start to question ourselves or reflect within ourselves. And at first, it's relatively superficial. And then later on, we go into deeper levels of self-knowledge, of self-discovery. So this is a private journey for everyone. Nobody can judge anyone as to where they are at. We can't judge someone thinking that they're a beginner or they're advanced. Actually, there are people who can study Gnosis for many years, and there can be another person who hasn't studied Gnosis. But the person who hasn't studied Gnosis has a lot of life knowledge. They know themselves. They might not necessarily know that they know themselves so well, but it's like that soul is more mature. It's gone through a lot of suffering. So yeah, this is a private journey for everyone. So a psyche, a soul, which is not illuminated, which is what we want here. The goal here is to illuminate ourselves with our consciousness, our awareness. Runs wild with ignorance, right? We all have ignorance in the beginning. So as a reminder, the word consciousness, we can get a sense of what the consciousness is already, here and now, if we observe our thoughts, our emotions, and then become aware of the awareness of those thoughts and emotions. Everything we feel, everything we think, the awareness of those thoughts and those emotions, that relates to the consciousness. The awareness behind the thoughts and behind the emotions. So we have a tree here, and we can call this the ego tree. This is us. This is our ego. This is our conditioning, everything in life. So we talked about the 7 sins last time. The 7 sins not as something to judge ourselves, not really something moral or ethical, but to study it scientifically and psychologically. It is a synthesis of the unconsciousness, the ego. So here we have the main 7, let's call them egos. Let's try to avoid the word sin, but ego, because we don't want to judge these things. We just want to see how they live inside us. And so lust here, I've put bigger here, because this is the ego tree, right? The main trunk here is mostly lust, right? All of these little roots, you could say pride, anger, jealousy, greed, laziness, gluttony, they all feed the tree to keep it alive, this ego tree here. But lust really relates to one of the biggest things. Now, we have to be careful when we first hear this teaching, when we first listen to this teaching. We might think that, oh, lust is something very bad, sinful, wrong. There is no point in judging lust. Lust is something that we don't want to judge. It's all part of us. It's all part of our nature, our animal nature. Another word for ego or unconsciousness is animal nature. And that relates to what you were talking about before, about past lives. And also, this is for another topic, but the evolution of the soul to become a human, we'll study in these Gnostic teachings. Before a soul becomes a human, it has to evolve, and it has to experience first being a mineral, plant, and also animal, an animal nature. So in the animal kingdom, in dogs, cats, all animals, you can see a reflection of the whole human psychology, the whole human ego, reflected in animals. Yeah. Fables, and also relates to when people say they have a spirit animal. All of us are actually related internally to certain animals.
Spirit guides.
Yeah. I had an experience where I was shown some years ago that my consciousness was more related to a dog, right? And what is a dog, right? A dog is friendly, loyal, but a dog also has its animal nature, right? It goes around wild and has sex with lots of dogs, things like that. So you can see it's an interesting thing to reflect on and meditate on.
And in Harry Potter as well, they have like their own Patronus animal.
Right.
So yeah,
the knowledge is hidden in different.
It's like a
stories.
Representation of them.
Yes.
For animals.
Yeah.
So,
Right. Actually, in many childhood stories, whether the author or creator was Gnostic or not, the hidden symbolisms and teachings are there. Whether the writer was conscious of it or not, they are tapping into the universal symbolic knowledge of the self, of us, So yeah, lust, pride, anger, jealousy, greed, laziness, gluttony. These are, you could say, the main or capital ego parts of us. As we saw in the last lecture, we actually have hundreds or thousands of different egos. I gave the example of gluttony, and we could be sitting here not really listening to the lecture and learning, but we could just be fantasizing about the delicious lechon manok, right? And that would live under the gluttony here. So we all have a secret amount of different egos. Let's say very bad people in the world, if you can think of someone that you think of so violent, so bad, maybe like a terrorist or something like that. They would probably have hundreds and thousands of egos, maybe even millions. Master Samael said that he discovered someone with millions of egos. But generally, a normal person, I'm guessing in the thousands, or maybe if they're a very pure person, could be in the hundreds, something like this. So all of these, this is complex. It's not a simple teaching, lust and just pride and anger. No, we have to learn to really observe these things in our real life, right? So lust can, of course, relate to jealousy, or jealousy can be born from lust, right? Pride can be born from laziness too. I remember when I was a teenager, my mum would always tell me to get up in the morning and clean the house, and I'm very rebellious. I shout back at her and say, no, I'm not getting up, leave me alone. I'm old enough now, you shouldn't tell me what to do, right? Pride and laziness talking, right? Greed, anger. You can meditate on it yourself, how the different psychological eyes relate to each other. Right? That's another word to call it, right? Ego, we also call it psychological eyes. Psychological I's because each ego has a mind of its own. Right? An I, a me, a sense of me, a different sense of self. We can be thinking and identified with a certain thought, but then later, in the next moment, another thought comes. Right? One day, it's like in these teachings too. We have a particular I that loves these sort of teachings of Gnosis, but it's common that after many days or weeks or months, that particular I that was interested in all of these things, and it even promised and said, I would love to, I'm going to devote my entire life to these teachings. Or not even these teachings, could be Catholicism, Buddhism, right? And then something happens, the I just goes and it's replaced by another I. Right? 6 months later, many years later, it completely doesn't care about about all of these teachings. We do that in relationships too, right? I promise to love this person forever, but then many years later, we are not the same person. We completely change and we want to be with someone else again. Right? So there are many examples of that. So you can start to reflect on, what does your internal state look like? What does your inner world look like? I've put some pictures here, right? If we are, quite a solitary person, we feel very alone in the world, maybe in the astral, maybe in the internal worlds, we might have even dreams or nightmares that look like this, right? We feel lonely, right? We feel scared, we don't feel any light, right? Maybe we have a lot of anger, maybe we feel just generally maybe dirty. We might feel like we have a lot of problems, maybe we're a very happy person. Maybe we have a happy ego too. Right? Maybe we're always dreaming of kissing the love of our life, something like this. So this internal world, this internal state of mind, emotions, body, is also the cause of our problems too. Or we create problems externally when our inner world is not compatible with the external world, right? With the external events. So for example, we're all here attending this. Okay, we need to sit down and be interested and listen, right? And I need to be in a frame of mind where I am inspired, so that you are also inspired too. But if our state is something totally different, we have so many problems. We are dreaming of being somewhere else, and then we start to create problems, right? So knowing how to live intelligently requires combining these internal states with the external events. Right? Like, if we go home later and our family requires us to do something, then we need to be in a state that is ready for that. We can't just say, I'm just going to stay in my room and not be cooperative with my family, So, yes. So we have a quote here, and this is a great book to start with in these teachings, Revolutionary Psychology by Samael Aun Weor. I'll send you a PDF later. Yeah. I do have a copy that you could borrow if you want, and you can take turns reading it if you would like. The concrete and definite fact that the internal work begins with attention. The internal work begins with our attention, our awareness. That's where it all begins. We can't do anything spiritually if we don't first begin with our own awareness. So the fact that it begins with our awareness, which is concentrated in the full observation of oneself, as we saw in the first class, self-observation. The fact that it starts with self-observation is more than enough reason to demonstrate that this demands a very particular and personal effort from each of us. It requires a certain psychological effort. Right? As we saw with the key of soul, right? You know, in life, we're always taught to, or we learn that we should exercise a lot, right? Exercise our physical body, exercise our intellect, maybe we should educate ourselves. But rarely do people understand how to exercise their own consciousness, to grow in awareness of oneself and the world. And that's what we learn here. So in this way, and this relates to karma, also relates to past lives too, our external life is a reflection of our internal world. From the moment we're born, this is already set in stone from past lives and from who we are. Right? Some people try to blame their life circumstances for their misery and sufferings, but they don't consider that actually, in a sense, they created that life before they were born, or they deserved it on some level. You know, there is a certain sense of, sometimes there's a sense of bitterness or blaming others, but really our life, ultimately, we're responsible for our own life. So all things, all circumstances that happen outside of ourselves on this external stage of the world is a reflection of what we carry inside, of what we carry of these psychological eyes. So you see here, the essence here, remember that this is the power of our soul, right? Very powerful. But the ego, which is about 97%, has taken over. The essence has the power to create the life we want, that we truly want. Humanity, if humanity had 100% essence, we would see heaven on earth. We would see a totally different world.
Manifestations.
Right. So, but that's not the case. Humanity today is mostly ego. That's why we see corruption, wars, consumerism. All of the negativity is a result of this mostly ego. If we want to change the world, we can't. Any efforts that we create externally will generally be in vain. If we want to change the world, we really have to start with changing ourselves first. So, when someone changes internally, and if that change is radical, then circumstances, life, and the external will also change. Krishnamurti said a similar quote, "If you are lustful, envious, ignorant, your environment is what you are." Right? If you are lustful, you will chase after many women or many men. Right? If you are envious, you'll start to chase after status, money, career. Right? Yeah. Just some examples. And the Buddha, not his exact words this, but translated and synthesized from his teachings. We are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts. And with our thoughts, we make the world. So to touch a little on astrology, and the symbolism of our planets and our solar system, there's also a reason why our particular solar system is how it is. We have to reevaluate how we understand the planets and the solar system. Because when we look into space, it's a void. It's like a nothingness. Right? And there are bodies, planetary bodies. And these are reflective of our home internally too. And just beginning with the moon symbolizes our subconsciousness. You could say, right, we are 3% conscious. This is the ocean, right? The ocean here. I'll put a little island here. This is the ocean here. And then here we have 97% unconsciousness. So, psychologically, this moon symbolizes the unconsciousness or subconsciousness. Actually, we have in these teachings something called infraconscious and subconscious. The moon relates to this, the waters. If you ever have a dream of water or rain, usually relates to your subconscious and also sexual energy. If there's rain, oceans, river, for example, if you are in a river and it's going very fast and it's dirty, then that could relate to you've been feeling emotions of very strong emotions, racing emotions, and maybe polluted emotions. Yeah. So the moon relates to this, subconscious. The subconscious is when we look inside ourselves, those are things that we could guess about ourselves, that we could guess is true. When we have dreams, generally, it's in our subconscious. These are things that we could guess that we are. I'm intelligent. I'm happy. I get angry sometimes. I could guess this about myself. Maybe I'm going to be a businessman or a salesperson or something. The unconscious, these are things that we don't know about ourselves. We don't yet understand about ourselves. We wouldn't guess. It would be quite surprising. Like, wow, I really learned something about myself, right? The unconscious. And the infraconscious are things that we would absolutely never guess. Would never guess. This is the deepest and darkest part of the human psyche, symbolized by the dark side of the moon. The moon always orbits the Earth. We've never seen the dark side of the moon. We never see it, right? There's a reason for that. I'll tell you, for example, on the topic of past lives, I've had experiences where I am in the astral. I remember a past life. I'm experiencing a past life experience. And I won't share what it was because it's private, but I won't share, exactly what the bad things that I did in that life, of that past life. But I woke up like almost shaking or shocked that I couldn't believe what I had done in that past life. I couldn't believe the level of shock that I went through in that life. So that relates to the infraconsciousness. Maybe many of us wouldn't think we are killers. We wouldn't kill anyone. But probably in past lives, we've killed, right? Many of us wouldn't think that we would do some of the deepest and darkest crimes of humanity, but some of us, we do have that deep inside ourselves. Maybe we've worked on ourselves. It wouldn't manifest in this current life, but if we look within ourselves, it's there. That's part of the reason why it's difficult to remember past lives, essentially because of trauma. Generally speaking, when we first remember past lives, it's difficult. Generally, later on, you start remembering more past lives, you start to remember nicer things. Yeah. But in the beginning, it's very shocking. And there's a reason why we're all born into this life and we don't remember anything. Yeah.
Whatever problems or challenges you're experiencing right now is related to the past life you had before.
Yes.
So yeah, it was not fully resolved. So
yes.
Yeah.
Right. We created a trauma inside ourselves, deep in the soul. Yeah. Deep in the soul, and that is called ego. And that ego, if we don't face something, if we don't process it, it's going to come back very unconsciously and infraconsciously.
Like, the same with soul contract?
You could call it that. That's more of like a new age term, but yeah, you could understand it as a soul contract. Sure, an ego is a soul contract. You're writing off your soul and to give it to an entity that lives inside yourself.
Based also in your experiences, how do you overcome, those past traumas in your life?
Well, this is the whole path that we're teaching here. Yeah. To know ourselves, to meditate, to self-observe, and really practice as much as possible from the moment we wake up, when we sleep. Actually, for an advanced student, we're always practicing from the moment we wake up, moment we sleep, and also all throughout the night to really make those efforts to awaken. Yeah. Okay, so another quote here, I think from Revolutionary Psychology again. When one illuminates the hidden face of our own psychology, the dark side of the moon, it is possible to know one's own errors. Only then is it possible to see our fellow man, our fellow brothers and sisters of humanity, correctly. However, when we do not illuminate the hidden part of ourself with our consciousness, with our awareness, we make the mistake of projecting all of our own psychological defects onto others. Right? Oh, I hate that person, he's so prideful, right? But when we judge that, it's like the saying, you point one finger, there's three fingers pointing back, right? It means that we're usually unconscious of a part of ourself that we just don't know that we're prideful. I can say in my own life that when I was younger, I would judge people a lot. Later in life, in my experience, I would see that I went through the same thing that they did, and I discovered the same thing that I saw in them, and I it's like I humble myself because I see that.
You see yourself in them.
Right, exactly. All of humanity is the same in this sense. So this is a little recap, a little review of the first class about the human machine here. As we saw, there is an intellectual brain. We have the physical brain, the red parts, and then we have emotional brain. But to add here, this is a very good diagram. Here, in the external world, the physical world, is the personality. The personality is not us. The personality is the external mask the persona that we show to others. When we look at other people, we're only seeing the personality, not the actual internal world here. Right? So the personality is a result of all of our egos and our essence. And it's just the external expression of it. If we are full of ego, as it says here, lots of attachments, fear, right, fanaticism. If we're full of this, then our personality will be an expression of that ego. If we are enlightened, if we have love, selflessness, humility, generosity, then our personality shines through from our being, our true being. Of course, most of us are here and also here, so the personality is a mixture. So this is also why we can't judge people by their actions, what they say, because the external world, you cannot know someone. You cannot judge someone. Even if most people are saying that a particular person is very bad, let's say like a politician, for example, we don't know. We don't know what that particular soul is. The only way to actually know a particular soul is through, well, first, usually through astral projection, to start to see the true colors, and also enlightened clairvoyance, the awakened consciousness. Yeah. We'll go into that. We have a lecture on the chakras, Kundalini, awakening the third eye, things like this. So a little exercise here. This is a very personal and private exercise. You can do it at home if you like. This was given from a very good friend of mine. That she learned this exercise from Master Samael in the Astral. This is very private, so usually you can write it. You would write it down, but just try to do it mentally. Here. Try to make a list inside of yourself of the things that you like about yourself. All the things that you like about yourself. It could be, I'm friendly, I'm an honest person, I have nice friends, right? Things like this. Anything you can think of. And we're being honest. I'm not tricking you, saying, "Oh, this is a lie." This is our relationship with ourselves. I work hard, maybe, to make money. I'm not lazy, maybe. I look after my family, right? Things like that. So try to make a mental list of the things that you like about this person in front of you, in front of your consciousness, your person, right? What do you like about yourself? And then think about and make a list of what you don't like about yourself. Might be a little more difficult, right? To think, what do I don't like about myself? Might be difficult to see. It's always difficult to see what we don't like about ourselves. Maybe we have maybe we're not being totally honest with ourselves. Or maybe there is pride getting in the way of seeing the bad things about me, right? It's very difficult to see. Right? If we're having a conversation with someone and all we do is talk about ourselves, right? We don't see that we're not making that person feel welcome and comfortable and listened to, because we're too self-absorbed in our own concepts and ideas. We talk about ourselves a lot, right? It's a really common one that we don't see. There's many examples. So this is generally our ego, right? Maybe it's easy for us to see that I get angry often. Maybe I'm a sad, I have sadness, right? I worry a lot. I spend too much time on social media, maybe. I'm very lustful. I can't control my emotions, things like that. What we don't like about ourselves. And then, now think about, what am I doing to change? What am I doing to make efforts to actually change? And change my life and change myself? Usually, nobody writes anything. Usually. Right? Because that's difficult. It's even difficult and hard to admit our mistakes and our errors. Maybe some of you really are making so much effort, you know. Even if it's not spiritual, you might be making effort to just, you know, you have to start somewhere, right? Some people can't even get out of bed in the morning, right? And they have what they call depression. And, well, at least we have to start somewhere, right? I'm going to get up in the morning and not stay in bed and stay on my phone. I'm going to get up and shower and, you know, we all start somewhere. But generally, we're not doing something spiritual. So the lesson here is, if we want to know and live and understand these teachings, if we want to reach the goal of self-knowledge, of liberation, of actually having awakened consciousness after this life, instead of just being born again into the cycle of suffering, then we do have to make some efforts. Right? It's difficult, but it's definitely worth it. Right? It's extremely difficult. So, just a little lesson there. And of course, the things you don't like about yourself, we could call bad egos. Right? We're talking about duality here. The ego is dualistic in nature. And the good egos are what you like about yourself. Right? So we are not condemning either. We're not saying either is bad. We just want to observe and know ourselves. Ultimately, both of these have to die. Right? Ultimately, the good egos and the bad egos have to be dissolved. Right? It's okay to have good egos, right? To make an intention, okay, I dream of being a great person who will save many people, right? Good egos. But there's a difference between having good intentions and dreaming of those intentions and having a self-image, being identified with oneself. And there's a difference between that and living actually awakened. The consciousness is awake, and it's living from moment to moment. You don't even think about tomorrow, but you're awake. There's a difference there. So all ego eventually needs to be dissolved. So going into a little bit of the sexual understanding. As we saw here, this is the ego tree, right? Ego tree. And this relates to the Bible. Yeah? The ego tree. We have Adam and Eve. We all have a Adam and Eve inside us. Internal Adam and Eve. Our internal masculine and our internal feminine. The mother and the father. It relates to the divine mother inside us and also the divine father inside us. So in the Bible it says we shouldn't eat of the fruit of the tree of knowledge, right? Of good and evil. In that exercise we just saw, right? Good and evil. We observed this duality in ourselves. So actually, I'll talk harshly. Religious fanatics think that they should stay away from the tree of good and evil. Actually, we've already eaten from this tree. That's why we've been born into materialism and duality, because we're already in this, in here, in this life, right? If not, I mean, we would be here. We would be, essentially, we would be an incredible expression of God, but not what you think that expression would be like. You would internally be really with God. You would have no confusion. You'd have no reason to come to this class, right? You would be enlightened. You wouldn't have confusion. You wouldn't have internal conflict. You would have a happiness that you wouldn't understand, you know. So humanity is already eaten from this tree of good and evil, right? As it says, God said, if you eat from this, you will die, right? So yes, we have to die if we want to exit from this. We have to die internally, right? So all of our actions, our egoic actions, our addictions, essentially, simply explained, if we stop doing them, the tree, it might be difficult because the tree then gets thirsty and talks to us, right? If you've ever seen someone trying to stop smoking, for example, or any addiction, not saying that smoking is bad, but any addiction, they start to shake and they need it again, right? But if you persevere, eventually it will die, the addiction, any ego, right? So here there is a big teaching here. We learn about sexual transmutation. This is a big part of Gnosis. In the intellect, we learn to see our thoughts, clean it up, right? In the emotions, we start to observe our emotions and we balance them. And in our sexual brain, which is the most powerful part of us, sex rules the world, right? Look at all the greatest songs, music, movies. The main thing is about sex, right? It's about fantasizing about the woman we love, and you know, marriage is a fundamental part of life, right? So we have the teaching of sexual transmutation. The sexual energy is our fundamental life force, right? Right. The intellect is like that's the speed. It's not so powerful. It can't know God. It can't know these mysteries for itself so well. Emotional intelligence, it's a lot more faster. It can understand these teachings better. It's more in touch with its conscience. Right? That's generally why you see, in general, women are usually a bit more like intelligent, compassionate, empathetic, right? Because men, it's like we have a different challenge, right?
More intellectual.
Yeah. Sexual, this is the fastest. It's very powerful. It's very fast. Right? If you think, for example, when a woman thinks about a man she would like, she can think about it, right? She could have emotions about it. But when she sees the man that she likes, she knows she likes that person very fast. Anyway, a man with a woman too. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to get in touch with your feelings. It's fast. So the sexual brain is very fast. However, most of humanity is, well, we are depleting this. The gold, the treasures are here. However, we're abusing our sexual energy with our emotions. Sometimes we cry too much, right? In general, women like Eve, right? Women are more sexual. They have more sexual energy. But that's also why they can be more emotional, negative emotions, because they have so much energy, but they can't process it, right? And also we abuse the sexual center with our intellect too. Especially like at university professors, they're not so sexual. However, it's like they're stealing the sex into the intellect, like this. Yeah. And the biggest thing is the orgasm. Again, we're not condemning anything. We're not saying anything is bad. However, there is an extreme depletion of energy, depletion of prana. Prana. And that's why you saw in the stages of meditation, when we do the inhale, and then hold it, and exhale, this is pranayama. It is transmuting the energy. You might have heard of, it's quite a popular movement now, semen retention, men, right? No fap, yeah, things like this. They're close, they're a little bit close to the truth, but what they teach is just no sex. You're not allowed a relationship, nothing, and this is, you're just retaining the energy. It's a little bit dangerous because you're just putting the energy there and it's like, what do you do with it, right? You get very horny, basically, right? And your lust can really take over. It's so hard to control yourself. Here, we differentiate from retention to transmutation. That means to harness the energy, to purify oneself internally, to get a hold of, it's like we all have an inner beast, or the bull. Do you know, like in Spain, they have the bull fighting, right? This comes from actually Atlantean. Do you know Atlantis?
Yes.
Yeah, right. There's another lecture for that, Gnostic history, but that actually comes from Atlantean times, Atlantean wisdom. That the bull is like the sexual energy. It's the Satan with the horns, right? And the bull usually in the beginning is controlling us, is making us do all these things. That art, the bullfighting, is actually a symbolic teaching that we need to learn to master our own bull. We need to learn to work with the bull, right? To dodge it when it comes, to also eventually tame it too, right? To let it be calm, let it be peaceful. So we will have more classes on sexual transmutation and also alchemy, right? This is not the same teaching as the church to say that sex is bad, sex is sinful. This is not right. Sex is sacred. Sex is a very sacred part of us that we need to honor, and it's very private, and for each person, it's something we have to respect a lot. And we have also sexual alchemy, that when a man and woman come together, they can actually enjoy sexual union, but without the orgasm. And through this, in combination with dissolving the ego, there is a certain light. Right? Sex is not a bad thing. Right? It's just a fire. It's a light. But we adulterate that fire. And it's normal for us to, go on Tinder, sleep with anyone, all of this. But that is just abusing the energy. We learn, in a simple way to explain it, we learn it's like taking that fire and put it back where it's meant to be, which is in the heavens, that we need to purify and then bring up. And this also creates the astral body and the mental body, higher bodies of consciousness. So you'll see when you start practicing it, you have more energy, a lot more energy to do things in life, to live your whole life, have a family, have a job, have a wife, have a husband, look after children, and you'll still have so much energy to do the spiritual practices throughout the day too. This gives us a lot of energy. I'll send you a video that I made. It's like, I think it's about 50 minutes, but it also explains alchemy, sexual transmutation. We'll go deeper into that, and we have time for questions too after. But in the beginning, especially if we're just single, we want to do just pranayama, right? The best thing to try to, it's very difficult in the beginning, but to stay away from things like masturbation, pornography, things like this, and to transmute the energy. You'll see a huge difference. It's very difficult to understand at first, but when you practice it yourself, you'll see a huge difference in your meditation, your level of focus, your ability to control your egos, right? You'll be less angry. You'll have more power to be awake, right, in the consciousness. So that's a very big topic. And there's also different pranayama exercises. You might have seen alternate nostril breathing. This is a way to transmute the energy too. Yeah. So a little bit more off topic here, but this also relates to the three brains. This is a teaching by Master Samael. The four ways. The way of the fakir, the way of the monk, the way of the yogi, the fourth way, the direct way. These are four ways that humanity tries to reach enlightenment, tries to reach God. The first way is the fakir. You might have seen some people in India like this. They can like keep their arm up for many years, and then for so many years, and the arm doesn't go down.
Yeah.
Yeah. So these people, they really try. They stay in one. They go into caves and they stay in one place for so many. Yeah. And they really do it. They don't eat for so many months or even years. They have exceptional willpower. So that's what they develop. They develop will over the body, the physical body. Right? They have will over the senses. Right? If we're very lazy people, it's good to spend a week with them because they're going to teach us how to be, have a lot of will. However, they can lack conscious will, meaning the will over the mind and the emotions, and meaning they're not really listening to their being. They're just, it's in a way, it's like they're fanatically, forcing themselves to do something. They lack also intellectual and emotional development. They're only developing the brain, the physical brain, right, of this body. The next one, the way of the monk, and this is very related to more us, or more as Filipinos in our culture, and Catholics. Right? The monk develops the emotional sentiment, the religious sentiment. I love God so much, right? Nothing wrong with that, right? It's important to have this. They develop the devotional sense. I commit myself to God. We have very impressive Catholics here in the Philippines, right? Even in Easter, they even put themselves on the cross, right? This is extreme, of course. A little bit like the fakir too. But generally, I admire the Catholic faith. Yeah, the faith. So they develop the emotional aspect of the being. I'm going to go back because this relates to something. Here. When we see the intellectual center and the emotional center, there is a superior and inferior part of this. When the being is coming through, we have this conscious faith, we have love, we have admiration, we have a sense of unity with humanity. Right? When we hate others, right, that's the ego. And the same with the intellect. There's a superior intellect, which our internal God comes through if we're lacking the ego. And when we start to think negative thoughts, that's the ego. Right? So, they develop this superior emotions of the being. However, they have faith in belief rather than experience.
Yeah, the
That's the downside a little bit.
difference you can
We're not generalizing. We're not saying that all monks and Catholics are like this. Anyone from anywhere could be awakened or not. Again, we can't judge. We can only see internally if it's really awake. They also lack the physical or intellectual development, usually. Now, the yogi, the path of the yogi, they focus on the mind more, the control of the mind. They have psychic faculties. They want to be in a serene, godlike state. They can do it. Like, you know, you might have seen some yogis are like, so they have this mental capacity. However, and they might have very impressive, they have telepathy. They can control, you know, things with their mind. They are very clairvoyant. They develop their powers, right? Yogis. However, the downside is that they can get identified with powers. They think that because they have powers, they're enlightened, right? They're like a god, right? They get delusions of grandeur, right? Some people really do develop powers. However, they start to claim they are Jesus Christ incarnated. You know, so.
cults.
Oh, yeah, some cults are like that too. And the main thing, they can forget the work on the ego. They forget that they forget who they were in the past, where they come from. Pride gets born secretly, right? Now, we're not saying all of these are wrong or bad, because the fourth way, the direct way, also called the Gnostic doctrine or the path of the razor's edge, is all of these combined. This is the physical, control the physical, right? Control the emotions and control the mind. It's all of them combined. For you know, for example, in terms of lust, right? Walking down a street, I want to look at a specific part of this attractive person's body. Okay, can I control my body, my physical body, right? Can I control the emotions that I feel with it? And can I control my thoughts about it, right? It's difficult. Lust is an extreme example, but there are many examples. Someone who makes you angry or you have a reaction. Right? Are you going to be like, when someone insults you, are you going to be, so, offended by them, right, physically? Are you going to feel so hurt emotionally? Are you going to start thinking of clever ways that you can dominate that person, right? So, the fakir seeks perfection over physicality, the monk seeks perfection over feelings, the yogi seeks perfection over the mind. So this is also known as the way of the balanced man. So this is man type number 1. People who also, the Olympics is on right now, right? They're fakirs. They really focus and put all their faith and energy into controlling themselves, and they're very impressive, right? The Olympians. Yes, and this is man type number 2, the person who develops these emotions. In the Philippines, we have beautiful people like that, and man type number 3 is one who controls the mind. They're conscious of the mind. Man type number 4, in the Gnostic teachings, we say that it's only man type number 4 who can enter the kingdom of God after death. Only man type number 4 enters the kingdom of the consciousness. They have the worthiness of eternal life. After 4, we'll see this in a later lecture, but we have man type number 5, number 6, number 7. But number 4 is generally, it's the minimum that we need to balance our life in all our ways. Sometimes I think it's a good example. I don't know if any of you know, like Muji.
Emoji?
Muji. Yeah, he's a spiritual teacher. Also Eckhart Tolle. Eckhart. Yeah, right. Yeah, I really see him as the balanced man, you know, really balanced. Yeah. Samael Aun Weor, we would call this man type number 7. And this relates more to up here. Right? So this is Kabbalah. I'm showing you this early, but we will study Kabbalah, which is very advanced and deep. It comes from the Hebrew tradition, which Judaism, which really many would argue is a more original Christianity or original Catholicism, which has been removed from, you know, all of the Christian types of teachings. But still today, they allow some of them to study it, but you have to have certain requirements. And even when they do study it, they don't have the same understanding as Gnosis. But just to have a general overview here, the third dimension, this is the physical body that we develop. The next part is the vital body. This is the sexual body. It's also known as the Garden of Eden, right? So we're all created through sex, right? Our mother and father had sex, and we're born through sex. We come through the vagina, and we're born through sex, right? This is why this is a fundamental teaching here of sexual transmutation. We come out of Eden through sex, right? Through lust, through eating the apple, that's temptation. And it's through also Eden that we go back to God too. And then we have the astral body, emotions, mental body. So this is man type number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, the yogi. Number 3. And this is number 4, the causal body. Meaning it relates to cause and effect. Cause and effect, another word for cause and effect is karma. Yeah. Meaning this kind of person has intelligence, conscious intelligence and willpower over these 3. It controls all of these. Right? Next goes higher, but we'll look at these. The soul, the being. This relates to the Trinity up here. Okay. So the 3 brains, as a reminder. Okay. So to go more into meditation, because we'll have a meditation. We'll have a little break and then we'll have a meditation. The Buddha gave a teaching, a sort of synthesis of meditation. 8 steps of yoga. So here are the steps first. So you may remember in our first class, right? I gave you steps, right? To relax, and then it was breathing, the pranayama, right? To harness some energy, yeah. Then concentration, and then to let go, right? Right, to let go, yeah. To let go and stop all effort, right? However, and that's the meditation part. However, it's not so much letting go, it's actually more of you're going into a deeper concentration. You're absorbed in your own consciousness and awareness. So let's go through it quickly. And each class we're going to look at the next 2, but this one will only just go into, because there are subcategories of each one. But we'll just look at these 2 first. I'll just go through an overview now of this really helps us to understand meditation, the power of meditation and practically. Essentially, we need to cultivate all of these. Of course, not think about it, but just practice it. So first is, before we can meditate, before we can understand anything, we need self-restraint. We just need some moral discipline, right? Some discipline. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. This one, the practices. What practices are we going to do? I'm going to observe myself. So these are like ethical codes and morality, just to put ourselves in line and discipline ourselves. We need that before any meditation practice, in general, in our life. Then practically, we need our posture, our relaxation too. Right? You can sit in any way that you like when you meditate. Generally, I cross my legs, but you can sit like this. It's not very good to lean back, or lie down. You might fall asleep. It's best to keep the spine straight. It's best to choose a position that you will stay with, basically for the rest of your life. Choose one position, because once you choose that position, it's just easier to go into meditation. Yeah. Whatever position is most comfortable for you. So asana, it's about relaxation and posture. Good posture, relax. Also, when you meditate, try not to move the physical body. It's difficult. We're getting in touch with our internal fakir, right? Try not to move the physical body until you're finished. Of course, if you're too frustrated, it's okay. You got an itch, it's fine. But generally, try to keep it still, because we want to penetrate internally to find some stillness, some peace, some serenity. The next is pranayama, to do the breathing practice. This is a lot more powerful if we are retaining our sexual energies. Right? The next part is withdrawing our physical senses into the internal senses. We have our senses now. We can hear things. We can hear the aircon, right? We can hear some sounds outside. But eventually we have internal senses that we can be sensitive to. We can hear certain thoughts. We can get a sense of impressions that we have. Maybe we have certain feelings and thoughts about things. The next is concentration. Usually a mantra. You can also use prayer. Paternoster, the Lord's Prayer, is a very powerful prayer to do in meditation too. Any prayer that you know, or mantras, we will learn certain mantras here, especially in terms of the chakras. There's a mantra for each chakra. Then it's you let go of the concentration and you go into absorption of the consciousness. Right? It's not like you let go and totally relax, but you relax into the being. And then this is the ultimate goal of meditation, samadhi, which is often described as bliss, as ecstasy. Essentially, you remove yourself from the ego and you're at union with divinity. You're at union with your being, your God. And this is an experience of reality. Right now, we're seeing the world through our personal senses. But when we're liberated from that, we start to see reality. And if we apply that to anything in our life, we see the solution to life, we see the light of life, we see the beauty of life, we see the harmony of life, and we understand ourselves, why we're here, our purpose of life. So in the beginning, we're meditating. We are the meditator, and there is meditation. However, when you're in samadhi, there is no more meditator and no more meditation. The act of meditation and the meditator, they merge into one. Right? Usually we observe, and then there is the observed person, right? The observer, the consciousness, and the observed. But in these high states of meditation, there's no more observer and observed. It's you become one with your consciousness, your internal being. No more conflict, no more confusion. You understand there's a light inside, right? Like the Buddha. So all of these 8 things it's like a wheel. We need all of them. A wheel that kind of drives us to consciousness, to God. So the first 2, the number one is self-restraint and moral discipline. So just to integrate into our lives a sense of non-violence, kindness, compassion. To be truthful, right? To be honest in our words, our thoughts, our actions. Right? We could be thinking one thing, but then we say something else. We have to observe, are we lying? Why are we lying to that person or this? Right? Are we doing it because of pride? Are we doing it to just please the other person? Are we, does our words have a double meaning? Right? When we say, I'm stereotyping women, but I like your clothes, but really internally the woman hates the woman's clothes, or they're jealous, something like that. So to be honest in our words, to control our words, to control our tongue. Non-stealing, don't steal from others. Right? Brahmacharya, to have chastity, to have cleanliness, to have purity, and to have respect. Non-possessiveness, not to be attached to our material possessions. Okay, and the next one, niyama, elimination of desire, physical cleanliness. So these are like the basic virtues that we need to experience deep meditation. Purity of mind, right? To have these virtues as a person, and it's like being truthful and honest as a character, as a person. For example, like if we go to the bathroom and we don't wash our hands, there's we lack a virtue there. We lack a lack of respect, you could say. To dress well, these basic things, to be respectful, to others, these are all virtues. Contentment with what we have, right? Being grateful for the little things in life. Often we're not happy because we're not grateful for the small things, right? We have food, we have a roof on our heads. Self-discipline, perseverance, no matter how much we're struggling, no matter how much we are failing or falling, continue. Right? There's nothing wrong with failing. Self-study, self-reflection, and study of teachings. And to remember oneself. Right? Often when we fall into unconsciousness, we forget ourselves, right? And we forget divinity. So all of these things you saw, it's more the practical daily life things that we should strive to integrate in order to go into the very high levels of meditation. The Buddha is teaching we need all of these first in order to really go into meditation. A lot of people complain and say that they can't meditate. Probably the solution is somewhere in this list that we saw and the previous list. So a nice quote here by Krishnamurti, because we see a lot of things and we can have a reaction like, wow, how can I walk this path, right? We might judge ourselves, but Krishnamurti says it very eloquently here. The highest form of human intelligence is to observe ourselves without judgment. And I think that is a kind of negative part of religion today, which is they can unconsciously encourage judgment, right? And we don't want that. We don't want to condemn ourselves or judge ourselves, because that's just another ego judging ourselves. We fall into sleep and we get a negative sense of self. If we have judgment, that's okay. Observe the judgment. Anything that comes into meditation, observe it. And this is a relevant quote here too, right? Because you can see a child here, right? And as we discussed before, the essence, when children come into the world, their essence, their consciousness is actually awake, even when they're a baby. For example, when the baby is in the cot, do you call it cot here? Crib, yeah, that's it. when the baby's in the crib and it starts crying, often they're crying because they can see their future egos. They can see the creatures and demons flying around them. They can't get into that body yet because the baby is protected. That's why it's so beautiful and so pure. Even a person with a lot of ego is going to, they get rid of all that ego when they're in the presence of a baby, right? Because it has an aura, a sacredness to it. So pure, yes. So only around the age of 7 does the ego start to integrate into the child again. Right? So we can learn from children too, because actually their consciousness is quite awake. It's also the reason why we don't remember a lot of our early childhood, because we just don't have those memories, because we're in our ego now. We don't really see that, we don't remember those memories of when we were children. I'll share, for example, when I was very young, maybe 3 or 4, I only discovered this maybe a few years ago. So in my life now, I practice astral projection at 18 years old. And I thought, and I achieved it. I had this amazing out-of-body experience. Later on, I have an experience where I remember when I was maybe 3 or 4, that when I was a child, I was in my bedroom and I come out of my body in the astral and I'm playing with things and I go back into my body. And I go out, I go in, I go out. Anytime. And it was so much fun. I'm doing it so innocently. And I was a child, you know. We really have some certain powers when we're children. That's why when you see a child and they say, Mama, I was speaking to my friend, but there's no friend.
Imaginary friend.
And the word imagination, another word for that is clairvoyance. As adults, we think that imagination is just something fantasy. It's not real. Yes, because our imagination now is just mostly ego. But for the child, their imagination is awake, it's conscious, right? So here, relating to this child, here, he's saying that to observe yourself without judgment is really to be like a child. That's what the Christ says here. Truly, I tell you, unless you change, meaning remove the ego, awaken, unless you change, become like little children, to have innocence again, innocence relating to the innocence of the Garden of Eden, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. The kingdom of heaven being just awakened consciousness, eternal consciousness beyond this temporary existence. Yeah. So, before we go into meditation, I also want to talk about the benefits of group meditation. So the benefits of group meditation, it helps us to strengthen our practice. Right? It might be difficult in the beginning because we don't know each other, we don't have a shared sense of intention, but as we grow as a group, it can be really helpful, really helpful. We start to develop this sacred sense of unity, of brotherhood, sisterhood, and a divine purpose, you know, beyond this world. When we meet here, we can really support each other in that way. Support and motivation, shared intention of eliminating an ego. Sometimes we think that a Gnostic group or any spiritual group, it's not like a social club, but it's okay to socialize, to make friends, right? We should have good relationships. But ultimately, it's a place where we support each other's being, right? In a way, we're all trying to learn to see the being inside ourselves. We should also learn to see the being in the others too, and support that, to be honest with each other. And maybe sometimes even offer some criticism, maybe some feedback, If you see something that you think is ego in me, say it. I don't mind, I'm not going to be offended. I can consider that, and I'll give you an honest opinion, but maybe you see this, or I don't think that's true, or oh, maybe you're right, and thank you for letting me know. You helped me become more aware of myself, But there's a fine line between, pointing the ego and criticizing and attacking, right? Yeah. So I write this next part because someone in the last group said that they stopped meditating because they thought that they might get possessed
13, yeah.
or something like
we
that.
were at 13 at that time, then like Friday the 13, and then
Right.
there's an old lady mentioned. Yes.
Yeah.
She did not include it for the meditation because maybe all of us were possessed. Or one of them.
Yeah. But it's a good point too, and I'm glad that she said it, so we can clarify something. That in meditation, it's just about observation. That's it. Observation, right? If we have an ego of fear, of doubt, of cautiousness, superstition, paranoia, rebelliousness, pride, or I'm not going to meditate, or maybe laziness, right? Just observe it, that's all. Just observe it, right? You need to observe that in meditation. Don't identify with it. You can even say, I don't identify with these thoughts. That's it. You get spaciousness back. Stop identifying with yourself. This is a line from the Master Samael. He always says this. Be alert and vigilant like a watchman in the time of war. Because really, we're not awake. And we have to have this sense of alert, be aware. Anything bad could happen at any moment, And this is an important point here. The ego does not want to die. When you go into meditation, a part of you has to die. You have to sacrifice a part of you to go into meditation, right? It can manipulate you to start practicing. Maybe I'm going to meditate, but then I say, it's like procrastination, right? I go and maybe I'm going to have a nice meal before I meditate, right? Maybe I'll go out to get some groceries. Maybe I'll just see a friend before I meditate. By the end of the day, I didn't do any meditation. My ego is very happy, but my soul inside myself is like suffering a little bit, So in terms of possession, black magic, all of these kinds of things, ego is the source of black magic. Ego is the source of hypnosis, all of these things. If we want, there are many types of prayers. We have very powerful prayers and very powerful prayers for protection in these teachings. But if you want the most superior and most powerful way to protect yourself from all black magic, right? It's dissolving the ego. If you dissolve the ego, you protect yourself from all black magic, right? The being, when we go into meditation, we want to be, right? We don't want to do. If I'm doing something, if I'm thinking something, this is all doing. We want to be in the light of our being. So this is the best protection, right? To be in our being and dissolve the ego. Essentially, when someone evil, like a black magician, they want to attack you, they'll see you with their clairvoyance. They have power of clairvoyance, and they're going to look at your weaknesses, right? They'll go into the astral or something, maybe.
Yeah,
Right. They'll use your own weaknesses against you. So maybe, for example, we're trying to do these teachings, we're trying to awaken. Someone in the internal world will see you, and then they try to, maybe if you are a very lustful person, they will send you a lot of attractive people to keep you asleep, right? If you don't have ego, you can't be manipulated. You can't be overpowered by these kinds of things.
In order to overcome, we need to dissolve our ego.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's it's the foundation of these teachings. Yeah. Yeah. Something that it takes a lot of time, a lot of practice to learn, and you also start to gain the knowledge for yourself in your own way. Yeah. So it's like this. It's like, this is our watchtower. We have our torch, our torch of consciousness, and we have different egos that could come up.
Excuse me, sir. I have a question.
Yeah.
In real life experiences, what if those what you mentioned used against you, like for example, your witnesses are your family, you're lost, and then they will use that, manipulate you. How you usually overcome. We do not know how actually to resolve.
Are you talking about friends and family that would use the weaknesses against you?
Yeah, possibly in real life situation.
Right.
It's one of the examples.
Yeah, so the question is, what do we do if friends and family, right, try to attack us, make us unconsciousness? There's a funny saying, a nice saying. I can't remember what spiritual teacher said it, but if you want to know you're enlightened, go spend a week with your family.
Yeah, you're done.
Yeah.
That's like
Because with the family, right, with the family is all the karma, all the deepest karma, deepest egos.
Mother karma, father's karma.
Yeah, and relates to our past lives too. So there's a saying in the Bible from the Christ. He says, I'm not here to bring peace. I'm here to give you a sword. And that sword will go against your family, will go against your mother, your father, your brothers, your sisters. We have a responsibility to love our families, of course, right? But internally, we have to develop this, the sword is for ourselves, right? It's our own ego. Yeah. Others, this is why we say we can't go into another country, go to a mountain and just live like a hermit and don't face the world. We need these circumstances. We need friends, family, because they are other people. Humanity is a reflection. They reflect to us our ego. And those are opportunities to show us our ego. When someone is tempting us to make us angry, to make us jealous, or they're just teasing us, that's great. In terms of Gnostic practice, I'm happy, right? Someone come here, insult me and try to defame me or something, I'm happy. I'm happy as an opportunity to observe my own ego.
Your reaction.
My reactions, right, exactly. Yeah. So it's difficult. We need to develop. We need time for ourselves, a sense of our own being, which we'll see here. I'm going to talk about having your own practice at home to strengthen yourself, and that's also what the sexual practices help with that too. To have enough power and energy to maintain your own consciousness, to maintain this light and make it bright, so that basically these dissolve within us. If we're tired, we don't have enough energy, someone insults us, it's so easy and quick to just insult them back and have an argument. But if we have conscious presence, we can not go into the reaction very fast. Yeah. We can forgive. And actually, when you do that, when you make that effort, you'll see that it's like a miracle. It's like they won't attack you anymore.
Yeah.
So as we talked about before, the ego has our hidden powers. People talk about developing telepathy. We all have telepathy already.
Yeah.
Master Samael, he gives a very good example that when two people go to a pub, do you have pubs here in Philippines? Pub. It's like, okay, bars, yeah, bars. Two men go to a bar, right? There's many people. However, if two men there are really ready they want to fight someone, want to punch someone in the face, right? They both have an angry ego, and internally, in the inner worlds, they will telepathically look for each other. And by the end of some time, they will find each other and fight. They'll look each other in the eye and say, you have the same ego that I do, let's fight, right? But if the person is making effort, he's having serenity inside himself, this one will look for someone else,
Yeah.
right? So in this way, the internal is a reflection of the external, right?
Is that also related to someone, I mean, like finding your partner as well? Like you attracted that because you have the same internal states?
Yes, that relates to the recurrence of the different lives too. That when usually we meet, more or less, we meet the same sexual partners. Because as we saw here, sex is very powerful, and it's going to attract who we want, or also the people from our past lives too.
Yeah.
And you can get a sense of if it's very karmic relationship. When people, right, when two people meet the same person, they say, well, it's like we're soulmates. Like it's like we know each other so well. I can't believe it. They're shocked, you know. Yeah, because, well, sure, you could call it soulmate, but it's very karmic too, right? It's a good opportunity.
Still toxic.
Maybe toxic, but it's an opportunity too, right? An opportunity to dissolve the ego, if they are both willing to change, to know themselves. Yeah. You were going to ask a question?
Yeah. This one.
Yeah.
So actually I read one of Samael's books.
Yeah.
So it's the zodiological course.
Yeah.
And then there's a part that it says about twins. So if you don't marry that twin soul, you won't have a happy marriage. Something like that. So
Is it true?
I don't know. Yeah. So yeah. In that book, he says basically, if you don't find the twin soul, it can be more difficult to get to the destination of these teachings. However, we just need to be mindful that these teachings are so deep and so difficult, and our intention, hopefully, is that in one lifetime, we master ourselves. We have the choice to come back or not, and that we reside in the causal world, in the higher worlds, with freedom, spiritual freedom, right? We're not here saying be a Gnostic, be this. We just want freedom from this reality, right? To be in the truth, right? To be awakened, right? Yeah, but that might take, generally, I'm trying not to be discouraging, but for a lot of people, it takes many lifetimes, you know?
to finally meet that twin
Right.
in the same lifetime.
Yeah, I know other Gnostic instructors. They know that they were Gnostic instructors in their past life. They have been part of Gnosis before, and they're here again, you know, doing the same path. It's difficult. The important thing is that we make a start, that we make efforts, and as long as we start going up a little bit, that's great. There's a great saying by the Christ in the Bible. There's more joy in heaven, the angels sing loudly, for a sinner who redeems himself than a person who doesn't need any redeeming, right? So here's another very deep teaching that most religious people would hate me for, but I'll say it because it's what I've learned. But most masters, including master like Jesus, at some point, far eons, thousands of years ago, he wasn't a master, right? He was like us. He was deep down. And because he was so deep down, when he ascended, it was like he changed the world, because his being is so high. He's really the highest master. When a person becomes a master, they awaken. We have something called the White Lodge, the White Gnostic Brotherhood, where all the masters go. Buddha, Jesus, Krishna, Moses, Muhammad, they're all holding hands together. They're not part of any religion. They're all together in this higher world, the White Lodge, right? But we understand that Jesus he's the most respected one, because most masters, they just did the work internally. Jesus actually did it physically. He actually went on the cross and died physically. And he planned that before he was born to do that. That's something huge. Buddha also went through his own crucifixion, right? But it's internal. Eventually, at some point, we all need to do that. So, to go back to what you're saying, we will meet the right person at the right time. We'll be with them as to how long that the purpose it serves. It's taught for Jesus, Master Jesus, for example, that he had 3 wives in his life to do his work. 3 wives, not at the same time, of course. He had a break, right, between each one. There was a priestess in Egypt. He was known to have to practice these alchemy, white tantra, with her in Egypt. And the last one was Mary. Yes, yeah. Mary was also known as his mother, but really Mary is also his wife too, the Divine Mother. Right? Buddha, his wife was called Yashodhara. Yeah. So all the great masters, they all had their own soul partner. So Master Samael, he also says that it's more beneficial actually to find a partner. It's not necessary, it's okay. As long as you can do the sexual teaching, the sexual work, it's okay. But he says that it's more beneficial to find someone from your past life. It's more difficult, but because there's more opportunity to see your ego. It's going to be really karmic. It's going to be like toxic, like you said. But it doesn't have to be toxic. As long as there's consciousness and you're really doing the work to change, you can find a deeper happiness. You can go much deeper, but it's more difficult. So God, the being, life gives us who we're ready for. If we're not ready for a very deep thing, right. So like in the previous class, the most important thing is follow our being. Try to get in touch with our own intuition. You know, we can't just go into like just go find someone immediately, and it's up to our being. They will tell us what we need to do, and get in touch with our feelings, our conscience. Yeah. So, just here a nice image of the Buddha. He's in meditation. He can see all the egos attacking him, but he has this serenity. Right? Meditation. It's okay to see all of the egos. It's normal, you know. So, like we said, to strengthen ourselves, it's good to have a place in our home. I think you said, right, you have a very nice like altar and a room where you have your own place, right, to commune with your own being, to connect with our internal church. So it's good to have a place in our home, even if it's in a corner of a room. And there are some general little rules, you might say, which is preferable to have a square table. Let's say lower schools, or maybe connecting to like witchcraft and things like that, they will use circle tables. Better to use a table that is square. It relates to the philosopher's stone. Freemasonry, for example, you know the Freemason symbol, right? They're chiseling the stone. That's symbolic of perfecting their will and also perfecting their sexual center. So to have a square is preferred. To also use white candles, not to try to avoid using red. Don't use black. To use white candles and use anything that can help you, can inspire you. And also to have the 4 elements too. We'll go into this deeper, a deeper study about symbolisms, also about this pentagram. Right? It's a very deep and powerful symbol. It has a certain mantra too. Some people relate this like to, black magic and so.
No,
only if it's upside down.
Yeah, the upside down is
You see?
satanic.
Yeah, if it's like, this is the star, it represents the human being. But if it's upside down,
satanic.
it's got the horns, and it symbolizes man falling down. Right. This is about us going up. So have the 4 elements too. We want fire. So the candle, and ideally, if you can always have a candle at home, always on, it would help. If you don't like fire, you could have electric, so anything to have the symbolism of light in your house. So the fire is the light, the sacred fire. The air can be the sound. It can also be a feather. And the air is also the incense. We have some frankincense here, like how they burn in churches. We'll do that with our meditation. And so we have the fire, the air, earth. The earth can be flowers. It could also be some salt too. I have a crystal. This is an obsidian blade. Right? If you can have a sword too. When you see a sword or a dagger on an altar, it's symbolizing to kill the ego. Right? But this is earth. So earth can be flowers, salt, or maybe a crystal, or anything like that. Earth. So we have earth, air, fire, and water. To have water at your altar too. I don't know if you've seen the experiment of the Japanese scientist he had 2 glasses of water. Have any of you heard of this? It's a Japanese scientist. It's very nice. He has 2 glasses of water. On one glass, he puts the word love. On the other glass, he puts the word hate. And he spends so many days or months loving the water in this glass and hating the water in this one. And he proved with physical evidence that if you love it, if you then look at microscopic molecules of the water, it's harmonious. It has beautiful patterns. Essentially, it's like holy water. It's blessed water. And the one that was hateful it looked disgusting. It was, discolored and disharmonious. So to have water, and then in that room that you have your altar and you do your practices and meditations and prayers, you can also drink the water too, to help yourself, to give you strength. What's that, sorry?
The altar.
Oh, the water? Yeah, you'll notice, sometimes we notice that after we do certain practices, the water tastes different. And also sometimes you might see like bubbles or, it's funny, the taste. It's like a church taste. Yeah. All right.
The older we are, we actually manifest that we can actually do it.
Yeah, exactly. And as we saw, our life is a result of our karma too. Our childhood is something very profound to. We actually have a practice in Gnosis, which is to retrospect, to go from this moment and go backwards all the way from where you can remember your first memories, and to really understand, especially our childhood, which is a result of our karma. That's where we feel the conditioning of our ego come in, all of that. And when we're older, if we want to free ourselves through self-knowledge, through understanding ourselves, to mature as a soul, then we have the choice to do that. Right?
And not to be like your parents, be your own individual self.
Right, individual. That is also a description of what we want here, to become an individual, an actual individual, not the result of what the world has told you, people, your career, your boss, your parents, your teachers, school, religious things, cultural things, to actually understand what part of you is actually yourself, your individual self. Right? That's what we could also call our being, right? Our true self.
You are doing for a good, but in a negative side, it will have something bad.
Yes, right. So karma happens even when you think you're doing something good, but a negative thing happened from it, then you'll also receive the karma, right? And also, if you do something that you thought was bad and it created good, you get dharma, right? Karma is opposite of dharma. So this is a path of Gnosis. The Buddha would call it the Dharmic path. Dharma. Dharma. The opposite of karma. So we need to generate Dharma.
Good karma.
Yeah,
Okay.
good karma you could call it, yeah. So, yeah, when we, let's say, for example, if you're a bartender, there's certain things that in these teachings that are quite clear that we can't really do, right? If we're serving alcohol to so many people, we might think that's okay. But what if a person got so drunk and they killed someone later on? There's a little bit of, responsibility on our hands. There's a bit of blood on our hands, There's a lot of things. Everyone has a lot of good intentions, but has negative effects. And it's all judged by the intelligence of karma. We can't judge it. God judges it, right? Politicians, they say they do a lot of good things. Maybe Duterte is a good example. We can't judge was his actions correct, and maybe there's probably some good. I see some good in it personally, and also some bad too. And that's what you call his own karma. We can't judge that. Only God can judge it, But you're saying like if you do something that is it's like speaking the truth, and then but it creates a negative consequence, right? It's like when you get into a relationship and you see all the ego of each other. Are you just going to both, let's say for example, a couple comes together and they both like to take drugs together all the time. Are you going to remain happy doing that? Or are you going to speak the truth? It's going to shock the person, but that could create a lot of good in the long term. And it's also being honest, right? And being truthful. And we all need that when we get into a relationship, right? To be truthful with each other and to see those hard truths. Yeah.
Is it true, actually, like, curious, if you are doing something bad, for example, this day, but there would be somehow in the future, like after 20 years, it will go back to you?
Yeah, good day.
Okay.
Good thing. Yeah. Yeah, that's karma.
Oh, it's not. I just realized, if I am now like you speaking in front, then I have many questions. Then my students also ask a lot.
Yeah. Like I said to you, I remember certain judgments when I was younger, and then I go through the same thing that they went through, and it always comes back. Yeah.
About past life.
Yeah.
If you think that you've been with a person in the past life, and in that now this life you still like meet again for some reason or something, is it really 100% that on the past life they didn't really like solve something in their problem, or maybe it was solved but then just like now it just like comes back again or something?
Yeah, probably unresolved. Because if it was solved, there's not much purpose for them to meeting. Yeah. If it's unresolved, then we'll come back. Master Samael, he puts the example that people who killed us in the past, maybe they'll try to kill us again, or sometimes people meet each other, they make friends, but then they realize that Master Samael, actually, he had a friend who the past life of Master Samael was Julius Caesar. One of his past lives.
Really?
Mm.
He was Julius Caesar?
Yes, Julius Caesar. Yes.
Very kind name.
Julius Caesar was betrayed, was killed by a friend. He had this friend in his current life.
One of his friends betrayed him.
But he didn't betray him because this friend was following Gnosis. But they both understood that. Yeah. So they, of course, them two learned a lot from each other. Yeah. By love your enemies, right? Love your enemies.
Yeah, but is there like example like in the past life the other one resolved it already inside herself, but the other person didn't. So and
Right. That's where you need to exercise a lot of compassion and a lot of love. And there's certain practices, for example, just it's
like unfair to other person.
It's unfair to the person. Well, your ego feels it's unfair. Your ego feels it's unfair. Yeah.
So it's my ego talking. You're saying.
Yes. I only say that because that's my wife. I wouldn't usually point out egos, but yeah, of course, right? It's the ego talking, you know.
So you mentioned earlier about
Yeah.
intuition, right? Intuition and
Yeah.
Intuition. So
Mm.
how do you balance your intuition versus impulsivity?
Yeah, intuition is, even though we have so much ego, we can't see the light, we can't see solutions. It's that intuition that is the direct link to
it's like
our being.
internal compass, intuition.
Conscience, yeah. The voice of the conscience, voice of intuition, and the conscience. Really, it's just, if we make efforts in all of these practices to see our ego, to meditate, we have more peace inside ourselves, more clarity, the more opportunity and inner space we have to just listen to it. It comes spontaneously, right? Intuition is not thinking. It's something that comes to us when we are perceptive. We are receptive, right? Passive. Yeah, passive mind. And that is able to be ready for anything that might come, some kind of answer. Sometimes it's just, I know the solution to this, you know, it's just like that. Yeah.
So what do you call about that? Like there's a thought suddenly popping inside your head. Is that like out
Yeah,
of nowhere?
You have to, it's up to your own discernment as to whether that is an ego. Maybe you can see if it's desire. This is where meditation deepens. Some people say, oh, don't have any thoughts in meditation. But actually, meditation is the tool to directly understand the thoughts. So when a thought comes in, you can sense inside, is this to do with pride? Is it to do with a fantasy? Is it to do, you know, is it contaminated with these desires and, you know, our self-image, our identity? Once you start discerning that, you start to also feel the conscience. And we saw, right, superior emotions and superior thoughts. So they work in harmony too. So that when you have a thought, your superior emotional center starts to activate. And that's like the conscience in the heart. And it will tell you through the feelings if it's right or wrong. From my experience, if I need a solution or I get an idea and I don't know if it's the ego or the intuition, then generally I don't make a decision, and it's better not to follow. Because if I do get an idea and I just know it's right, there's no doubt, no conflict, no confusion, that's my intuition, that's my being, and I'll follow that. Yeah. It's very clear, very simple and direct.
Whatever you feel is right.
Yeah.
You just follow it.
It's so simple, like a child, right? A child just knows so simply. But when we get old, we confuse ourselves.
Yeah, that's
So-
a really strong intuition. You go to angels are watching over you.
Yeah.
Or, you're really safe.
Yeah. So sometimes our being just comes to us and it gives us big things. My friend, for example, the one who gave the teaching about what you like about yourself, what you don't like about yourself. She was in a country and in the Astral, she saw that there was a flood going to come. And so she got a plane and got out of there. The next day, there was a tsunami or something like that.
Strong intuition.
Yeah. And, you know, in terms of dying, we all have a date, a specific date where we're going to die. I'll share with you that I discovered my date that I will die. Younger than expected. A lot younger than expected. However, our life is set in stone, but we also have karma and dharma. Karma is like what we owe. If we're basically beggars internally, we're poor, we have no money, right? Doesn't matter if we're rich physically. How much money do we have internally? If we want more money, we need dharma. essentially we need to do good deeds, and then we'll get it back. And when we do good deeds, that's part of the reason why I'm here, right? Helping others selflessly, not asking for anything in return. And we get dharma. And I'll tell you, my personal karma is very heavy. That's the reason why I'm quite intense doing all this, doing dharma. Because, right, and just like when you're in a court and you do crimes and you're judged, they can judge, we have practices in Gnosis to negotiate with our own karma. For example, if I say, okay, I discovered that I'm going to, or I'm meant to die on this date, when that day comes, I can say internally, I've done all these things, I can help people more, can I continue, basically,
Yes,
right?
there is.
So there is this negotiation of karma that's quite profound. Yeah, we'll look into that.
Excited. Karon na lang, sir.
What's that?
Sort like extension.
Extension? Yeah, extension.
Grace, like,
Actually, well,
a grace.
we're going into a lot of things as we usually do, but there is this teaching that when you become a human, you have 108 different lives. If that's basically 108 chances to go up to the next nature, the God nature, right? Because first you become a mineral, plant, animal, human. The next level is God, essentially. You have 108 chances. If by then if you've had 108 lives and you haven't reached liberation, you haven't mastered yourself, then you go back down again, and you become purified into the mineral, the hells. However, most people who are in these studies, we've already had 108 lives, and maybe they're on the 109th, 110th, 111th, but it's just that they're still making efforts, so they're still allowed back. So it's like a grace. Because, not because someone judged so, but because we're really steering our own life upwards, and there's certain laws that we can transcend to. Like we said, this path is about freedom from all of these laws that we're under. So, yeah.
So can you know in your meditation which level or which life you're already in, which number or end?
Could do, yeah. I never discovered that for myself, but from what I understand, most of humanity actually, because of the times we're living in, on a cosmic scale, there's not really long on this planet, right? Where we're coming to the end times, right? So that's a whole topic, but yeah, most of us are on our last lives. That's why there's a spiritual emergence now. If we're all just on our 9th, 10th, 11th, we're quite innocent, But no, that's not the case. That's why there is this feeling in many people randomly that they're questioning their life. What is it all about? Science isn't giving them answers. Religion isn't giving them answers. Have to go inside and find the real answers. Yeah.
When you're saying our past lives, is it necessarily it's on the past, or is it done simultaneously?
Right. Because from a physical dimension, it's in the past, right? However, from a superior dimension, the past doesn't exist. There's no past. If we think about tomorrow is just a thought in our head. It's not real, it doesn't exist. What exists is here and now, what we can see, what we can feel, right? Time is an illusion. So, in one sense, yes, it was in the past. However, it's more like all of our past lives just exist in us now, as karma, as ego. Yeah.
Yeah, Any questions?
No, no question.
Okay.
So this
Or,
is.
or
I'm not.
sorry,
Sorry.
sorry.
Go ahead.
Or can you say it's our alternate? It's happening simultaneously, so we have our alternate life existing at the same moment.
An
It's
alternate
like,
life. You could say so. I mean, that's like the different eyes that are living in us. Each eye has their own life. You can actually, in the astral, you can actually talk to parts of yourself. You can meet your own egos and talk to them and ask them what do they want, what, who are they. I had a recent experience, I think last year, where in this experience in the astral, I'm awake and I look into a mirror and I put my head in the mirror and I see 3 worlds and they're all me, living in different worlds. I see myself. So there's 4 of me, the one looking, and then there's 3 other people of me, and then we all meet into one room and we're all just looking at each other. It's quite a profound experience. It's just a reflection that different parts of myself was observing myself now. It's like 4 different egos were joining, right, meeting each other. So really, in terms of the astral world, we really do, each eye has its own life. It has its own sentiments, its feelings, its ambitions. So we have this split psyche. When some people say like split personality and schizophrenia, actually we're all a bit like that, actually.
So it's real time traveling. People can actually time travel.
Yes. Yeah, in the astral. Because the astral is the 5th dimension. If you understand that in terms of physics and science, the fifth is beyond time and space. Beyond time and space. There's no time. And there's no space. That's why, like here, if I want to go to America, there's distance in the 3rd dimension. But in the 5th dimension, there's no space. So if I want to go to another planet, I want to go to the moon, all I have to do is feel it, and I will go there. There's no distance between objects. It's the same with time. If you want to go to a future, you can already go there. You're beyond the time.
Like automatically you get into the future.
Yeah, just through intention, through understanding. Yeah. Okay.
Last question.
Okay.
Sige pa, go on.
I'm curious, sir, how do you actually like deal with, with your own problems? Like, how do you handle, for example, in any chaotic situation? Because very curious.
All of the practices, yes, meditation, prayer, efforts. The more difficult your life is, the more effort you need to make, conscious effort. A lot of patience.
Experience everything, sir.
Me? Have I? No, not at all. Well, the essence, right? We start with 3%. Even if you start to awaken 4%, 5%, this is already really profound. Most of humanity is living here. Once you start to move out of the sphere of humanity, I mean, you're already getting in touch with a profound level of yourself. You start to, when you get 15%, wow, I mean, you have something, it's like you have so much light in your being. But even when you get to 50%, which you could call it a master, maybe, I mean, you 50% mastered yourself, but there's still 50% ego. That's really intense. That's symbolized by the Christ meeting Satan, right? The Christ and the 50%. That's really intense still, it's very difficult. Yeah, but no, I haven't, I'm not, I wouldn't call myself awakened. I see my egos. Maybe a while ago, if I did that practice that we saw, about what you like about yourself, what you don't like, maybe I wouldn't have written down so many egos. Now, I'm talking from my ego, competitively. I could probably write down hundreds of egos,
Mhm.
because I've seen them, you know, and I'm devoting my life to working on them and dissolving them, right? Yeah.
Amen.
Finished?
Just curious.
Okay. Yeah.
Is it when you reach 100% overcoming your ego, and you reach your 108 108 chances, then you will transcend or ascend?
There are different answers to this, but like we said here, the fifth dimension, right? Eternal. So we want to develop something that would be eternal, that lives in the fifth dimension. That even when this physical body and this personality dies, you have something else. So, for example, there's some old people, elderly people, who find these teachings, but they don't have any sexual energy anymore, right? Because it was abused their whole life. They can't do any sexual work, but they can work on their ego, and then in the next life they'll be guided to continue the work. You can dissolve your ego a lot. However, the sexual work is to harness that energy also creates what we said before, the astral body. It's an actual body of consciousness that lives in the astral world. And that when this physical body dies, you can use that body and live in cosmic bodies, let's say. Yeah. So it's like, this is what I've understood from about when people die. If a person who doesn't have any consciousness, has a lot of karma, did a lot of bad deeds, if he dies, then generally he might not come back, or he'll come back through animal kingdom, because he's in the hells. The animal kingdom is like a hell, you know, in itself, because there's a lot of limitation. It's not, you know, it's not nice to be an animal, right? The next level is if a person dies and they're generally okay, normal. Once they die, they'll go straight into another womb again. Yeah. Go into another womb. Yeah. And then, but someone who has a bit more spiritual energy, a bit more awakened consciousness, when they die, they'll be given a break. And that's called the afterlife. You might spend usually like 10 or 20 years, maybe 30 years, until you go back. It's an afterlife, and you process sort of everything you've been learning, and then you have some freedom to plan what life you'll have next, and you'll make a purpose for yourself, right? And then
it's not really that true, you know, the saying that you only have this one life or something like that.
YOLO, you only live once.
Yeah.
This is it's a term from the Black Lodge. Yeah.
But Chinese tradition, you have 9 lives.
Or cats, no?
Cats.
That's cats. Yeah.
Okay, about a person that commits a lot of bad deeds will go back as an animal.
Could do. It depends. Depends on, as we said, we can't judge, but it's possible, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
How about
If they don't revolutionize themselves. So this is a whole lecture. It's evolution, devolution, and revolution. So if usually the soul evolves, and it and then it devolves, but then the path of Gnosis is to revolutionize ourselves. Yeah. What were you saying?
Christ, where is he right now? Or
He's
Joshua, is he in the fifth dimension or higher?
higher, yeah. It's taught in Gnosis that he reached the highest.
The highest.
The highest. This is, you could call it that. There are different interpretations, but in Gnosis, we understand that as. here. Right, so this is the fifth here, the astral and the mental. We talked about the causal. This is the seventh dimension. Above that, you can't see it yet, but it's the absolute. It's the nothingness, but also where everything is. In New Age terms, you would call it source, right? Absolute. And Jesus really got in touch with that. Yeah.
Very famous and aristocratic person, like that, or you're just this...
On a deeper level in our being, everything is planned according to our karma and dharma. And again, we can't really judge it.
But I did plan that, right, in my past life.
Yeah, it could do. Quite a Gnostic understanding is, a lot of people, let's say in America, who were very rich, they abused their fame, they abused money, they had so much greed. Yeah, just all the bad things that come with fame and money, right? The corruption. According to karma, according to grace, mercy, a lot of them were born in the East to learn how to be happy. My guess is that a lot of people would come to Philippines. Philippines is, in my opinion, one of the happiest countries, even though we have no money, right? Really. As someone who has grown up in the West, I'm so impressed by that, you know? People are really happy with nothing, actually happy. People in the West don't understand that. They're always chasing money, they're never happy. They always go to get business, they want fame, they don't know how to be happy. So, the being, if there is enough mercy for that soul, they can be born into like the Philippines, really.
Like the mindset of God will always provide.
Yeah, that's
Right.
our
Right.
In the times of urgency, help will just come up in the corner.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you believe that help will come. No, because you're manifesting that help will come. So help will surely come.
It's still all karmic. Because if a person is born in the Philippines, then they're extremely humble. They don't care about money anymore. Nothing. They're so happy. Okay, then maybe in their next life they will be born in the West with a lot of money again because they humbled themselves so much. Right? There's a saying that the Christ said, basically, humble yourself and you will be exalted. Exalt yourself and you'll be humbled. Karma and dharma kind of works like that too. Last one.
Okay. So how about souls that are disconnected from the source? Are they also doing the same process? Disconnected.
No,
For me, it's a funny question because we are asking as people who are disconnected from the source, right? We are disconnected. So what can we do? It's like we're already lost. In a way, sometimes we describe this path as to write your own destiny, to have freedom. You have the choice. Would you like to, go and keep incarnating and just live under the law of karma? Or would you like to take hold of your own life and start to awaken? It's your choice, right? Ultimately, I'm not putting you guys on the path. Ultimately, in your being, there's already, if you continue to stay, it's your choice and it's you put yourself here. Okay. Well, we'll have a 5-minute break and then have a meditation. Tabliya? No. You can't eat this. This is
and the Bible is tested.
if any of you want this, I'll order some packets of charcoal because it's hard to find in Philippines.
Okay, how much will you bring?
I'll message on the group.
Thank you.
It's instant charcoal. So you generally you should get a pot or a clay pot is good, or wood, and then we have frankincense. Yeah. This is good if you especially if you are. Pinhan? No, Practice. And our house should be clean, right? We want to clean internally, and we need to clean our physical house. This is good for cleaning this part. This is the vital etheric body. When you feel the vitality, you feel your health, and also your sexual energy. This is good for cleaning that. Sometimes if you have dreams, a lot of nightmares, you can also put this in your room and cleanse the whole house. You'll see there's going to be a lot of smoke. And
How
yeah.
about you have a hard time sleeping? Can it also help?
Yeah, it could help, but generally what's better is pranayama before sleep. Sometimes if we can't sleep, it can mean that we have a lot of sexual energy. We have a lot of vitality, right? It's like, right. You know, it's really like that. You do pranayama before sleep, so hold your breath. You can actually hold your breath for like 30 seconds, let go and carry on, and you'll transmute the energy, and then you can sleep. Also, as you go to sleep, you can do the Our Father. Maybe you know it in Bisaya. If you do it slowly, that's a very powerful one too. Sometimes you might forget it, you just repeat it very slowly, and it's good. It's a good remedy for going to sleep too. Yeah.
Actually, it's not for me because there's no effort when I want to sleep. I will go to sleep directly. It's for my daughter.
Okay.
You have daughter?
Maybe she has a lot of energy. How old is she?
12.
12. So she has a lot of energy. Puberty is coming.
Yes.
Sexual energy is developing. So more physical activities, maybe more time outside, and if you can teach her some breathing practices or meditation too, it's good. There's a nice rule that comes from India about meditation. At the minimum, we should meditate the amount of minutes that our age is. So for children, if she's 12, it's good to meditate for a minimum of 12 minutes a day. Yeah. But yeah, in general, you know, it's hard to introduce those things. Do more during the day. Children have a lot of energy, especially when puberty comes. Yeah. If you have headaches, this is very good too. Some people, they'll put a towel over the head and inhale the whole thing. It's very. This is frankincense comes from trees, a resin from the tree. Yeah. Very relaxing. You can smell it if you like.
Same siya sa kung ano, ganun sa Catholic na kuan.
Incense.
Incense.
Ang incense man
Careful,
sa
ha?
Bible, sa Bible kay prayer. Prayer ang means ng incense. Sa faith, parable sa Bible. We are doing here.
So just to recap, to review, because we're still studying the stages of meditation. We did relaxation first. Then pranayama. Concentration. Meditation. You remember the 8 steps of meditation, right? But this is more simplified meditation. And we also want to move away from guided meditation as soon as possible, because guided meditation is generally it's not really meditation. It can be helpful in the beginning, but it is best to move away from the physical senses and really go inwards. So although I'll still guide just a little bit and I'll use the bell, feel free to follow your own being in terms of what stages you want. If you feel like you need more relaxation, then do that. If you want to do more pranayama, you can do that. Okay? So I'm not going to guide so much. So in the relaxation, here, you can relax. You have your own choice how you relax. You can begin, generally there's two options. Always start with the feet, put your awareness at the feet and just relax. It's like when you're like this, let go. Let go of the muscles of everywhere and slowly, take your time slowly to relax all the body. You can do that, or you can also visualize with white light, if that helps you. Golden light, okay? And you can do it at your own pace, okay? At your own time. Pranayama, I'll ring the bell and we'll do pranayama. We'll look at different pranayama, but for now, the best one is the 5-5-5, right? But try not to do it like you don't need to count. You can just inhale, hold it, and actually it's better that you can go up to maybe 30 seconds here, if you want. The longer you can hold, the better, but don't strain yourself, don't stress yourself, right? We have to relax. And then exhale, okay? So that's pranayama, to balance the vital body, right? And then we'll go into concentration. Here, last week we concentrated on the breath, right? We're just observing the breath. If you know any prayer or any mantras, for example, there is the Om, right? This is a sacred mantra, Om. You can do that mentally. We're in a group meditation, so we don't want to distract other people. But you can continue that, or you can use a prayer. Any religious prayer that you know, you can do it. For example, if it's Our Father, who art in heaven. Very slowly, and just repeat it. Trying to understand actually trying to penetrate the meaning deep inside us, right? Or you can just observe the breath too. Yeah. Okay. When it's this part, we're letting go of all effort. We're not doing any of these efforts. However, it is also because we're concentrating the awareness here, right? And we're trying to do it perfectly, where we don't want to start thinking about some fantasy. The mind will try to take you out. Just go back to concentration. And we're concentrating our awareness on one thing. And then when it comes to meditation, it's not like we let go of the effort, it's just that we stay in the concentrated awareness. And we get a sense of our being. And so we call it absorption into the being. And we stay there for as long as we can. Right? If you're at home, it's better because you have your own time. But if you meditate properly, you can have a profound experience. You can start to go to samadhi, right? Start to really get in touch with your being. Your body won't move anymore. The thoughts will become peaceful, and the emotions, you feel stillness, peace, serenity, and you feel really relaxed. It can be very profound. At that point, if you want to just basically, if you want to bathe, it's like you're sunbathing, right, in the light of the being. Wonderful, that's great. But you can also, if you like at that point, introduce a problem or an ego too. If you have a personal struggle, at that point you can then bring it in and say, just not think, but just invite the problem. And you might be able to see that while you're in this state of your own being, you'll know the you'll learn something about it. Because the ultimate goal of meditation is to acquire new information, to understand something new from your being. Yeah. But generally, okay, just I'll ring the bell 3 times when we begin, 3 times when we finish. I'll ring, so we'll do relaxation, then I'll ring it. You can do pranayama, I'll ring it again, concentration, and then absorption, the letting go of all the effort. But I'm giving us everyone freedom to choose what they want. But if you don't feel comfortable, that's okay. Just follow the bell that I'll do. Okay. So I'll talk a little bit, but I will try not to talk so much. And if there is sleepiness, try to just observe the sleepiness. Right? And also your posture. Try not to be leaning back. Try to sit up straight, but also relax too. Yeah. Okay. Relaxing the body, becoming aware of the physical surroundings, aware of the sounds, aware of the silence, aware of the body, how the body feels, and just in your own time, relax the body from the feet to the head. Was it okay for everyone? I didn't say the stages. You all remembered the, yeah. Okay. Okay. All okay? Any comments or questions about meditation?
During meditation, without and you don't have the intention getting the result or answer that you're aiming, but still your vision, what's inside, you already visualize. Is that and does it the answer of your current situation that you're confused which to choose?
Yeah, to know the answer. Yeah. Yeah, probably if you're still in confusion, then yeah, you still need more meditation. Yeah.
But although it's not very clear, but
More patience.
okay.
Yeah, more patience or more meditation, and the answer will come.
Yes, although it's blurry, but I can say that
Start to sense something.
it pictures out something.
Yeah, and in advanced practices, it's best, or advanced students will meditate up to 4 hours a day, even 5 hours a day, if they want to progress quickly. If not, I mean, some people, probably best at minimum an hour a day, to really start to feel the good results faster. Yeah, and that could be 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in midday. Yeah, but if you can do it straight to, I mean, you will penetrate deeper inside, where you can see an answer more clearly. Yeah.
But it's okay, there is a picture. I'm thinking I was in the church, and after I saw that I'm in the universe.
Random thoughts, yeah. Important thing, they're okay if they come just to observe, not identify. Yeah. That's the process of meditation, to have the strength to not be distracted by the river of the images and things that are moving past, right? Just to observe it. Yeah. Yeah.
But you're still conscious of the outside. You can hear.
Yeah.
The vehicle.
Yes, and not to be distracted by that too.
While you're in a state of fun.
Yeah. In deeper meditation, if you really go very deep, there can be more profound states where you really go internal, and to the point where you will start seeing images too, real images, not just daydreams. Not just daydreams, but actual, real. You can see it as if you're watching a TV. Yeah. But it takes time. If we go into meditation and try to get an answer too quickly, like I want this answer, we need to cultivate the consciousness first. Then when we're in we feel something transcendental, we can bring it. A little bit, yeah.
But could it be that you're a little bit biased? Like, for example, you pose a question and then you're a little bit biased with the answer, so you want to make it yes, so you're aiming that it's going to be yes. Could it be?
Yeah. The ego, like manipulating, or, there are always little voices, right? The conscience is symbolized in children's cartoons as little angel, little devil, whispering into our ears. And you'll see in some children's shows that sometimes they listen to the angel or the devil, or sometimes they get tired of listening to them both, and they know the answer eventually. They become more real, right? It connects to Pinocchio. Pinocchio he's not a real person, he's a robot. He's mechanical, because he's not really honest with himself. He's always lying. But when the day he's honest, he becomes a real boy, and he doesn't lie anymore, he's more honest. Sometimes we just don't know the answer because Sometimes if we're more honest with ourselves, we
We
can.
don't want it to be that
Yeah.
answer, so we're still hesitant.
Right. Could be some fear, could be some doubt, some pride, some anything. We have to look at it ourselves.